So, what is the yes reflex? Well, you know that moment when someone asks you for a favor and your mouth immediately says, sure, before your soul has a chance to scream, no. Yeah, that. We need to talk about that reflex. This episode is for everyone who's ever said yes when she meant hell no, and then got stuck cleaning up the emotional mess. Some call that people-pleasing. Today, we're talking about the open solar plexus center. I'm Suzanne Arjona, and this is Life on Your Terms, where human design meets bold truth and permission to be real. You've played the role, you did what was expected, and now it's time to show up as you. So let's talk about this emotional yes reflex. It comes from a place of survival, of not wanting to be on the receiving end of someone else's negative feelings, so we simply give them what they want. Now, we all want to do good things and help other people out and be that go-to person in the neighborhood. But oftentimes saying yes is less about being generous and more about avoiding the discomfort of saying no. It's not kindness. It's more like crisis management. Okay? And when we're looking at this through the lens of the people pleaser, it's usually coming from an undefined solar plexus center. Okay, so if you look at your human design chart, the solar plexus center, sometimes called the emotional solar plexus, is that sideways triangle in the lower right area of your chart. Okay, there's a mirror image of that triangle on the left side, and that's your spleen center. Okay, so if that solar plexus triangle on the lower right side of your chart is white, it's undefined or open. If it's shaded in, then it's defined. Now, I've talked about open centers before. There's nothing inherently good or bad about open centers. They're just the areas where you take in energy from around you, and you don't have a consistent access to that energy, okay? So when you have an open solar plexus center, you will tend to pick up on other people's feelings, their emotions. The trick is in determining which feelings are truly yours and which belong to other people. Okay, you've heard me talk about boundaries before, and with open centers, we need to figure out where those boundaries are. So what's the big deal with the open solar plexus? Well, for starters, as I mentioned, people-pleasing. Someone asks you for a favor, and even though you really don't want to do it, for the sake of the peace, you agree to do it anyways. Now, some people call this people-pleasing, but regardless of what you call it, it has a cost. Okay? You might avoid an uncomfortable 5-minute conversation as you explain your no answer, but you trade it for 5 hours of resentment because you're doing something you really don't want to do. Okay? You're managing other people's moods, feeling responsible for them. It's exhausting emotionally, mentally, and even physically. And your fake smile when you say yes is a betrayal of yourself that costs you time, energy, and your identity. You're not honoring yourself or your feelings. So these are just some of the costs of what we're calling people-pleasing. Allowing others to hijack your emotional energy is a habit built over time. It doesn't just happen, overnight. And it may show up in different ways for different people. If you have defined gates in this undefined center, for example, those will influence how this shows up for you. For example, gate 22 is about grace and a desire to be heard and the fear of not being heard. Now, that desire to be heard may play out as always putting yourself out there for others so that they'll notice you. Similarly, gate 6 is about friction, and when not in alignment, there's a feeling of lack, so you'll do whatever it takes to get what you need. Okay, so this isn't just about boundaries between your emotions and others, but it's about trading your identity out of fear. Now, I talked recently, 2 episodes ago, I believe, about self-abandonment, trading ourselves for someone else's opinion or agenda. Now, you can go back and listen to that episode. It was called When Self-Improvement Becomes Self-Abandonment, and see other ways that we abandon who we are in exchange for something outside of us. So how do we reframe this? Well, first off, understanding that saying no isn't about conflict. It's about clarity. Clarity of your own desires and the importance of honoring your desires. Okay? Also, understanding that discomfort doesn't mean danger. That discomfort you feel when someone asks you for something is data for you to process. Okay? Why am I feeling this way? Am I tempted to tell them yes because it's easier than them getting upset or disappointed in me? What am I trading if I say yes? Is it really not a big deal, or would I be trading something really important to me for their peace of mind? Okay? And choosing yourself isn't selfish. You are as deserving of peace and comfort as the next person. So let's look at the big picture in all of this. My challenge for you is to look at the patterns in your life. Are your yeses creating a life that only keeps everyone else happy at the expense of your emotional health? Your design wasn't made for people-pleasing. It was made for living in a way that actually feels right for you. And that's what alignment really looks like. So the next time your mouth wants to jump into a yes, take a breath. Let your body speak before your conditioning answers. And if you're noticing that yes reflex way more than you'd like, maybe it's time to learn how your design is actually wired to make decisions. That would be your authority in human design speak. And I've talked about authority in a number of different episodes. So this is what we untangle in a human design reading. And when you're ready to start saying yes to yourself first, the link is in the show notes. So that's it for today. If something in this episode lit you up, please pass it along to a friend who's also ready for some real talk about boundaries. And if you're feeling it, leave a quick review. Reviews really help me reach more people who are ready to live life in their own way. So I'll catch you next time, and until then, trust your design and live life on your terms.